You know what I was thinking about, ladies and gentlemen, in the black community, the majority of black people say that they're Christian. And we know saying that you're Christian and everything with Christianity and how it was fed to us even during slavery taught us to be docile, taught us to, we'll have a better life in the sweet by and by. We need to turn the other cheek. But I thought, what if the majority of black Americans was Islamic? Because when you look at Islam, they don't believe in all that turn the other cheek. They believe in the law of retaliation. They believe in keeping their family structure real tight and together. Like, if you look into like the principles of Islam, they have a very, very strict code about family and sticking together and whatever. I think if I had a choice to say what religion all black Americans would be, I say black Americans should have been Islam.
Don't scare Negroes today with no badge or no white skin or no white sheet or no white anything else. The police the same way. They put their club upside your head and then turn around and accuse you of attacking them. Every case of police brutality against a Negro follows the same pattern. They attack you, bust you all upside your mouth, and then take you to court and charge you with assault. What kind of democracy is that? What kind of freedom is that? What kind of social or political system is it when a black man has no voice in court, has nothing on his side other than what the white man chooses to give him? My brothers and sisters, we have to put a stop to this, and it will never be stopped until we stop it ourselves. They attack the victim, and then the criminal who attacked the victim accuses the victim of attacking him. Yes, sir. This is American justice. Yes, sir. That's right. This is American democracy. Yes, and those of you who are familiar with it know that in America, democracy is hypocrisy. Right.
But he certainly would support a study of reparations. We understands that we don't need a study to take action right now in systemic. But he certainly would support a study of reparations. We understands that we don't need a study to take action right now in systemic racism. So he wants to take actions within his own government in the meantime.
So Joe Biden said he want to study reparations before he give reparations for black people. But how long did he study the anti-Asian hate bill before he gave the Asian community $156 million? And how long did he study before he gave the anti-LGBTQ hate bill $100 million? And how long did he study before he asked Congress for $30 billion for Afghan relief? And how long did he study after giving Israel $3.8 billion? But now Joe Biden has another group that he wants to give reparations to.
Administrations and negotiations to pay millions of dollars in reparations to families who were separated at the U.S.-Mexico border under Trump's zero-tolerance policy. The payments would amount to $450,000 per person.
Men are taught that they have to make women happy. The fact of the matter is, you can't make anybody happy. You have to make yourself happy. Happiness is a byproduct of achievement. So for women to say that they're unhappy, it's their own fault. Anybody who says he's unhappy, it's his own fault. Everybody has to make himself or herself happy.
You're giving me such a bloody headache. Yeah, I mean, where are you from? Where are you from? Dear Lord, I would never in a million years teach my girls that they have to grow up to be reliant on a man, as you can well imagine. I would never teach my son that he should be attracted.
But Tracy, you're the same one. You're the same one who brags that she's so strong and so tough and doesn't need a man's money, yet you're taking alimony.
City boy! City boy!
Got him.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
I'm not gay no more. I am delivered. I don't like men no more. I said I like women. Women. I said women. I'm not gay. I would not date a man. I would not carry a purse. I would not put on makeup. I will love a woman. Now listen, y'all praise God with him.
Salaam Alaikum. Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salam wa rasulullah wa ba'd. In the name of Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon his last and final messenger. Family, friends, foes, haters, and hateettes, welcome back to Feachaz. I greet you all in peace and love with no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So before we begin, please like, please subscribe, and please share. As you know, we got a lot of haters up in here. And today's topic is another very important topic, because this particular topic is something that is relatively modern, and it's a weapon that white supremacists have been working on since the civil rights movement in order to bankrupt the Black community within the Black community itself. So we're going to talk about this. Like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon. We are getting into it, and let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Okay, what is the black tax? Who knows what the black? You guys know what the black tax is by any chance? Right? Put it in the chat. Yes or no if you know what the black tax is. If you guys know. Yes or no if you know what the black tax is. All right. So the black tax is essentially a tax that is put on Black people just for their very existence. And it is done through the institutions that we all know to respect, whether it is financial institutions or educational institutions. So if you think about slavery, for example, slavery by definition is 100% tax on a person's labor. And if you put a dollar value to this, this is why this subject is very important, because a lot of foreigners, they come out here and they're talking about, well, we struggled, we came down here and we struggled, and we went through this and that, and we experienced this and that, and we were able to get out of our situations. So why can't you guys do it? Again, the black tax is a tax that is put on a Black person's actual existence. Okay? So slavery, again, it was 100% tax on all your wealth, your labor, your time, your creations. And the financial cost of these institutions against Black people are done whether they are through conscious or unconscious bias. A study done by Harvard University, it was a very large study that went over several years, and they completed the study back in 2012. Okay? The study involved 3 million Americans. So it's a very vast study. Okay. The Associated Press did a survey which was conducted from researchers from Stanford University, University of Michigan, and the National Opinion Research Center, and the University of Chicago. Okay. So it is a very wide study. And what they were doing is that they were measuring the general public's expression of bias towards black people. Okay, that was the whole goal of the study. And what they found is that the proportions of Americans expressing explicit anti-black attitudes was 51%. 51% explicitly expressed anti-black attitudes, and that was in 2012. So for those of you who are math geniuses, 51% is more than half the population. Okay? The proportion of Americans expressing implicit anti-black attitudes was 56%. Okay? And a study done with 3 million people. And that was back in 2012. Okay? So the race implicit association test at Harvard University, again, it took 3 million people. 75% of Americans, they found that 75% of Americans have an implicit preference of white people over black people. Y'all hearing me? So now, the University of Chicago, they continued with the study through the labor market, okay? And what the study did is that they would create resumes, and the resumes were exactly the same, okay? And these resumes, the only difference was that some of the names in these resumes were either white sounding or they were black sounding. That was the only difference in these resumes. And what they found is that the resumes, exactly the same resume with all the same qualifications, okay? What we found was that the resumes with white sounding names got callbacks of more than 50%. They were 50% more than the callbacks for the black sounding names. And the only difference was in the name. For example, white sounding names like Brian and Becky, okay? And black sounding names like Jamal and Lakeisha. Okay? So that was the only difference. Then they increased the quality of the resumes. Okay? They increased the quality of resumes. So they put more qualifications, more experience on these resumes. And the white sounding names, the callbacks went up 30%. And you would expect that, right? You would expect that, the callbacks to increase if you have more qualifications. And the black sounding names, what they found was that there was no change in the callback rate, for those of you who are keeping score. So now, the resumes with black sounding names could need up to 8 more years additional work experience to have the same likelihood of getting a callback as a resume with a white sounding name. This is the University of Chicago study did this. Y'all can look it up, okay? What that is telling you is that for a black resume, for you to get the same chance to get a callback as your white counterparts, you would need 8 years more experience. That's what they're telling you. They also said the level of discrimination was significant and uniform. These are their words. The level of discrimination was significant and uniform across industry, occupation, size, or whether or not the employer claims to be an equal opportunity employer. All that did not matter. All that did not matter. So they continue with the study. Okay? Women, Hispanic, and foreign-born participants all experienced higher rates of employment. Okay? What is that telling you? That is telling you whether you are Asian or South Asian or East Asian, doesn't make a difference, or Hispanic or a woman, they all experience higher rates of employment. And Black participants experienced no change in the rates of hiring. Y'all hearing me? So now, with the same study, the level of discrimination, okay, listen to this. This is from the Chicago, University of Chicago, okay? This is what they said. The level of discrimination during the job search is so high that researchers from Arizona State University found, and listen to this, that white job applicants with a felony, I will repeat, white job applicants with a felony conviction got more, not the same, more callbacks than Black job applicants with no criminal record at all. That is the black tax. You understand? You understand how the black tax works? Yes or no? Yes or no in the chat. Do you understand how the black tax works? All it was the black sounding names. Jamal, Omar, Lakeisha, Jermaine, Pookie, Ray, right? The black sounding names. That was it. Got less callbacks without felony convictions than their white counterparts with felony convictions. So now if you look at it, the black tax with relation to slavery, because when we talk about discrimination, most people talk about discrimination and racism in terms of the ethics of it. They talk about it as an ethical issue. But slavery, was slavery about ethics or economics? What was it about? Was it about ethics or economics? Slavery was about economics. But the transatlantic slave trade, with regards to Africans, Black Africans, this was the first time in history that a people was made to be enslaved perpetually, including their offspring, with no chance of getting out of that slavery. So that is essentially 100% tax on their labor, their wealth, their bodies, their time, their inventions. That's what slavery did. So now, if the value of that uncompensated labor from 1619 to 1865, only in the U.S. context. We are not talking about the Caribbean. We are not talking about Brazil, Suriname, Guyana, or any parts of South America for that matter. We're not talking about South Africa. We're only specifically talking about the U.S. context, okay? Some researchers have estimated the value of labor extracted from enslaved Africans. It was up to $24 trillion. That's in today's money, okay? And others up to $97 trillion. So you can see that it is an incredible amount of wealth that was extracted. And scholars differ anywhere between 24 trillion to 97 trillion. Okay? But let's say, for example, we are going to take an average. We got to be fair, right? We're going to say that the number is somewhere between the middle of 24 trillion and 97 trillion. So we're going to take an average. We're going to say that the wealth extracted from the labor of Black folk between 1619 to 1860 was $50 trillion. Okay? So we are going to ask a few questions here. Right? What is the value of the actual slaves when you take that average? What is the value of the slaves? Between 1860 and 1619, there is an estimated 4 million slaves accounted for, which is approximately between 16 to 20% of all the U.S. wealth. You got to remember, Black people in slavery times were not considered human beings. They were considered property. That's why it's called chattel slavery. Okay? So they were considered between 16 to 20% of all U.S. wealth, or 1 or 2 years of the national income. Okay? U.S. wealth in 2016 was 85 trillion. And the U.S. national income in 2016 was $19 trillion. Okay, now listen now. This means the value of the slaves as a function of U.S. wealth in 2016 will be equivalent to between 14 and 17 trillion, or about, if you take the average, between $15.5 trillion. That's in 2016. Okay? What are you getting at? Listen now. Listen. Okay? The value of slaves as a U.S. function of the U.S. national income in 2016 will be equivalent between 19 trillion and 38 trillion, or if you take the average, 28.5 trillion dollars. Y'all hearing me? Okay, so the average of these two estimates is 22 trillion, correct? If you're following the math. So today, the combined net worth, okay? Today, listen. This is where we're getting at. If you take the averages of these two estimates, you're talking about 22 trillion, correct? For the slaves. Today, the combined net worth of almost 40 million African Americans is $1.5 trillion. That means that 4 million slaves in 1860 had an equivalent economic value that is 15 times more than the net worth of 40 million plus African Americans 152 years later. Are y'all catching that? Are y'all catching that? You understand what I'm saying? 4 million slaves was worth as a dollar value 15 times more than 40 million African Americans living today. So what does this have to do with the new black tax? Do you want to know what the new black tax is? Who wants to know what the new black tax is? Most of us have heard about the redlining. We heard about mass incarceration and forced labor through mass incarceration. We heard about the prison industrial complex. We heard about all these stuffs, these things. Locking out black folk at education, locking out black people out of the financial systems. All sorts of methods to lock black people out of the economy. Not to mention the implicit and explicit bias against black people that we just mentioned through the hiring processes. Billions and billions and billions of dollars are being blocked from black people simply because they're black, not because they're not qualified, specifically because they are black. Okay? I'm going to show y'all this clip, and then we're going to talk about the new black tax.
This is a painful time for Clifford Hall. He is going to jail, even though he didn't do anything wrong.
I just don't see how this is helping anyone.
Hall's child support payments for the care of his 12-year-old son were supposed to be garnished from his wages. His paycheck stub indicated the payments were in fact withheld, but for several months his employer, due to a clerical error, did not send those payments to the court, and now Hall is being punished.
It's a horrible feeling, makes me sick to my stomach, but I have to do it.
When Hall found out about the missing payments, he paid a lump sum to catch up, but even that will not keep him from behind bars. Texas had a law on the books that would prevent deadbeat parents from going to jail if they paid up right before their court date. But last year, the legislature repealed that law.
In order to give judges some discretion to punish repeat offenders. It was a good idea. It sounded like a great idea. However, it doesn't work in all circumstances. There are situations such as Mr. Hall's case in which someone is shown in arrears, and it's really not their fault. It's an employer error or some other type of clerical error.
Even though I won Father of the Year Award, 2014 award through Committed Fathers Alliance, I'm going to jail for doing everything in my power to raise my son. This could happen to anyone.
So Hall heads to jail for 6 months, will likely lose his job, and won't be able to make any child support payments while locked up. When asked what he told his son Drayden about all this,
I told him I'm going to fix it.
We want to encourage fathers everywhere to become active, hang in there, don't give up. Even if you're going through some hard times, even if you're having a difficult situation with an ex-spouse, an ex-lover, hang in there.
Hall and his attorneys have established the Drayden Project to help educate parents about their rights and to help defray legal costs in similar cases. Anyone interested in making a donation can log on to the website on the screen. I'm Cynthia Nickerson reporting.
That is the new black tax. Black women have not only figured out a way to use this devilish judicial system as a weapon against the fathers of their own children, but they laud it. They encourage each other on it, including Muslim women. Wallahi, billahi, tallahi, uqsum billah. Okay, I personally saw with my own eyes on Facebook Muslim woman, hijab, everything, black Muslim woman, divorced her husband of 3 years, went on Facebook, bragged about it, and you know what she got? She got the house. Imagine being married to a woman for 3 years and losing your house in that marriage. And she got half of his wealth. Half. Are y'all listening? And black women, because they've been trained to do this to black men, it is something that is normalized in black culture. And even though this action in itself is not only is it haram, but those of you who have read the Nawaqid of Islam by Imam Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, one of the things, one of the nullifiers of Islam is to seek a ruling other than Allah's ruling. So you have women who are pretending to be women of God, but yet still going to these devils to make sure that the fathers of their children are punished either financially or judicially. And this man who overpaid his child support is still going to jail for not committing any crime. And who is the one that initiated this process? The mother of his child. The mother of his child. This is the new black tax. This merger between black women and the weaponization of the judicial system against black men is one of the most, as a matter of fact, in my opinion, it is up there in one of the most destructive weapons against the black family since, I don't even know, like this, it's just a very destructive weapon, because you are not just attacking that man. You're not just attacking that man. You are attacking the entire community. Because the spite of bitter woman makes them do the most outrageous things. So in Islam, we have a system. This is why in Islam, if a woman wants to annul a marriage, she has to seek permission from the imams in the community first. Why? Because a woman, if she has the ability to annul the marriage, she will do that hastily and emotionally. And we see the results today. 80% of black women nuke their marriages. 80%. 80%. 80%. Are y'all hearing me? Black women are the only demographic that are divorcing more than they're getting married. Not black men, not Asians, not Hispanics, specifically and only black women. So you can imagine now a man who is working to provide for his family, right? He understands his finances best, correct? When the woman now, because she has the right in the West to nuke her relationship, and she does it, and she is incentivized by the government to nuke her relationship because she can get 1/3 of that man's wealth through child support, and that's gross. That's without even consider any expenses that man has. And if he doesn't pay child support, what will happen? What will happen? He will go to prison. And then what? He will lose his job. And then what? He will be in arrears with his child support, correct? So does this affect just that man? Or does it affect the entire community at large? I'm asking a question here. Does it just affect that man, or does it affect the entire community at large? Let me ask y'all something. I want everybody to answer this question in the chat. Who raises men? Do men raise men, or does money raise men? Put it in the chat, please. Who raises men? Do men raise men, or does money raise men? Which one is it? Thank you. Thank you, Isada. Men raise men. Boys need their fathers. Even girls need their fathers, correct? Young boys and young girls need their fathers. So where is it that we got this idea that children don't need their fathers, they just need their father's money? Where did we get this idea?
You gotta hear this. So 70% of inmates are a product of a single-parent household. What they don't tell you is that single fathers produce similar statistics of those of homes with two parents, while single mothers don't. So the key to keep your children out of prison is the father. But mothers are awarded custody 90% of the time. Women are incentivized to leave a marriage, and prisons profit $74 billion a year. Am I thinking too much, or is there some sort of plan here?
Did y'all catch that? Did y'all catch that? And Isada, she said feminism, but we say not any feminism, because White feminists get married. White feminists keep their husbands around, and they have children, and they have stable families. Black feminism tells you you don't need no man. And as a matter of fact, black feminism tells you that the government could be the surrogate father of your children. And so now black feminism has all these black women thinking that being a mom, baby mama is good business practices. This is only and specifically in the black community. Where are these Asians talking about, I don't need no man? Where are white folks talking about, I don't need no man? Where are the Hispanics talking about, I don't need no man? Exclusively a black trait. Exclusively. So black women think that it is good practices to take the father of your children to court, to financially harm him. But it's not just harming him, because what are black women doing with this child support money? What are black women doing with this money? Are they putting it into a trust fund? Are they investing it? No, they're not doing any of that. They out there eating Popeyes and pizza every single weekend, buying nails and lashes and all kind of stuff. This is what they're doing with that money. Then they talk about they don't have any, they need to buy diapers and all kind of craziness. And then they will still insist on money from the fathers. Yeah. This is what they do. This is what they do with their child support money. Entire songs and ballads by black women talking about tax that Negro. And they say it. Not such a nice word either. Tax that Negro. The other one, they say it. They say it just like that. The new black tax. The new black tax. Brought to you by black feminism, infecting and poisoning the minds of black women all over the West. All over the West. Absolutely satanic. Absolutely satanic. Can you imagine, as a black man, first of all, this is what we got to contend with as black men. Okay? We got to contend with explicit prejudice and bias, and implicit prejudice and bias, and the criminalization of black masculinity. And on top of that, black women are the ones who are getting all the spiffs and the benefits from the government, and black men cannot get not even one red cent. Not one red cent for anything. So the black man is dependent on who? Dependent on the woman, correct? And when he finally pulls himself out of the gutter and he's trying to find a stable relationship with a black woman, what did we say? Black women nuke their relationships at what? 80% clip. So if he gets into a relationship with a black woman, there's an 80% chance that she will nuke that relationship. 80%. Not the men, it's the women. And if there is a child from that produced from that relationship, what are the chances that this woman, who has learned from her mother, who learned from her grandmother, and it keeps going on generationally like this, what are the chances that she will take her ex-man to court to tax him? What are the chances? Pretty darn high, correct? And on top of that, do the men get custody of these kids? They are financially liable or financially, responsible because the woman nuked the relationship, took the kids. They're financially responsible for that. Do these men get access to these children? Yes or no? Even though they're paying for them. Even though they're paying for them. Can you imagine? They don't even get access to their own children. How many black men have to fight black women to see their children? Fight! If you're black, every last one of us knows people like this. Every last one of us. We know women like this. We know black men in these situations. Every single one of us knows. We know this very, very well. And on top of that, this is happening in the Muslim community. And it is one of the most dangerous, despicable things that's happening amongst the Muslims. And it's getting talked about very little, if at all. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Brother Seema.
Wa alaikum salam. I mean, the barakamatullahi wa barakatuh. I see it as nothing new. I see it as the same scheme that Pharaoh tried to use. According to the people of the book, he wanted to kill, even in the Quran, he wanted to kill the male children. Yeah, it's the same thing. But you got to get the father out of the home to do that. And we know the hadith about the shaitan, when his underlings, come to him and say, I did this and that, you really didn't do nothing. Then when one tells him that I separated a man from his wife, he brings that one closer. Yeah. So, I think these devils, they run in that same doctrine.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I say it before, I say it again. The only hadith, or rather the most relevant hadith for black women today is the hadith that the majority of the women will be in the hellfire. The majority of the women will be in the hellfire. And what would they be in the hellfire for? What did the Prophet say they'll be in the hellfire for?
Being ungrateful.
Being ungrateful to the husbands. That's the only hadith. Every khutbah in every black masjid, the imam should mention this hadith as a reminder to the women. Every single khutbah. Because black women are doing the complete opposite, absolute opposite. And not just doing it, but bragging and boasting and sharing publicly and singing sob stories, absolute sob stories. The amount of opportunity some of these women have for marriage, and every single time is the man's fault, never her fault. Never ever her fault. Bringing children into the world to nuke their marriages, and then bring chaos and rancor to the Black community through destroying the wealth of the Black community by arming the judicial devilish white supremacist judicial system against Black men to criminalize them for no crime committed.
You know, over here they have something called, you know, debtor prison.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the brothers mentioned that they weren't supposed to put you in jail, you know, for debt. But how they get around that in the States, they'll say, we're not putting you in jail for the debt. We're putting you in jail because you defied the court order. We ordered you to pay X amount and you didn't pay it. You see, these devils don't even believe in their own laws. They only use it when it's advantageous for them. And when it's no longer to their advantage, they disregard it or find some way to skirt it. But we believe in, unfortunately, too many of our people, we believe in that system more than they do.
Yes. Yes. And this is a multi-billion-dollar lick for the government. In Canada here, the Canadian government can usurp a man's tax returns, 100% of it, for child support, and on top of that, charge interest for whatchamacallit, what's that word? Arrears, and on top of that, take fees for charging interest and taking the tax. And you think that this merger between Black women and the government is so incredibly devilish, absolutely devilish, right?
Unholy alliance.
Unholy alliance. Imagine all the wealth that is being extracted through the system from the Black community. Ridiculous amounts of wealth. Because every one of us knows Black people in this situation. Every last one of us.
And it's funny you mentioned, you know, how they run in the program in Canada, because these devils, they know how to stay on code. It's the exact same way in this country.
Yeah.
What you just described, that's what they do. They charge you interest, which is haram. They call it arrears, you know, pretty
they call it arrears. Yeah. Arrears. Can you imagine? You're going in debt for not even taking. Did you take out a loan? How did you get in debt?
But
you got in debt because of the word of a woman. That's it. That's the only thing that puts you in debt.
Yeah, you didn't even sign any contract with them.
Yeah, you didn't sign no contract with them.
They force you into it. But the thing that I find like so disgusting and humiliating as a Black person, like our people, we so lame. We actually play for the game. We pay for our own destruction. Like you know, you hear Black people nowadays talk about like the slavery, how you know they use other Blacks to work with them and enslave other Blacks. And they talk about how dumb those people were. We doing the same damn thing. We're so lame. We're actually paying for our own destruction, man. That's the humiliating part to me. Like deep down, when I hear these topics being brought, like I feel disgraced.
Yeah, and we should feel disgraced. We really should. Let that disgraced feeling motivate us to do what we are actually supposed to do. Because it is incredibly disgraceful. You're talking about billions, multi-billions going to these white supremacists, and then these women taking this money and then enriching other white supremacists from buying, fast food, nails, hair, weave, shoes. You get me? They're not investing this money. They're not investing this money. And then the kids, how many of us, do you know how many brothers? Man, it's so crazy. Brother told me, married a Muslim woman, okay? had a child by her, divorced the woman, divorced, of course, Kula as usual, as it always is in the black community, right? Takes the daughter. He doesn't even get to see the child, but he's paying child support. Okay, he doesn't get to see the child. Okay, calls the daughter up one day and he's like, "How are you doing? Whatever. How's my girl?" Or a text her. I can't remember to call her text. She goes, and the daughter goes, "Baba, you don't have a daughter, you have a son."
Wow. Wow.
You get me? Did the money help that child? Did the mother even help that child?
I'm a firm believer. You know how they have all these think tanks. I think these people were studying this for decades. And I'm a firm believer that a part of this program they put together is to destroy the family in such ways as feminizing young black males and or leading them to the penitentiary because you have no guidance. Lead them under the mother and the women, because the women would never, they mother tell them these things, from ignorance, like through miseducating us. And the woman growing up in the house without a father, how can she be a good wife? She's not used to listening to a man or ever taking orders or being obedient to a man. So I think like these devils are very clever in wickedness. And I really do believe with my whole heart that this is all a concerted and well-designed, thought-out plan that they've been working on a long time, probably through their think tanks and such.
Yeah, it's 100%. 100% that's what it is. You get me? And there's no doubt about it. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Because have you ever heard other people groups just brag about taking their men to family court? Bragging. Have you heard about this?
Nope.
I only see it in black women. And what about when that black woman is a Muslima, and she's still doing that?
Yeah, that's even worse because she should know better.
She should know better, but the problem is that black imams have been taught that they cannot deal with black issues, and now this thing is like out of control. You get me? It's only recently that black imams are dealing specifically with black issues. Every single time they try to talk about black issues, what do they get called? The black imams get called black nationalists, a race baiter for dealing with black issues. And they get shamed even by their own black people for dealing with black issues. Now the situation is spiraling so far out of control. This channel here, we were not shy and we did not back down from, and we dared anybody to come with that butter biscuitry with us. We dared them. We challenged them. You get me? We are the ones who have to stand up for ourselves because you don't have any friends out here. You have zero friends. You don't have any brothers out here. We have to depend on Allah, and then we have to, love each other and have mercy with each other because nobody else are going to have mercy for us.
Nah, we like the laughing stock. Like everybody else just sort of, either laugh at us or, they make some small gains, get some crumbs off our pain and misery. But yeah, you're definitely right. It's definitely time to take a bold stance.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm saying that, and I said it before, actually, and I actually believe this. And it's not just rhetoric. Black imams, as long as they're black women in your masajid, then you need to mention the women of the hellfire every single week. Beat it into them. The women of the hellfire. Why are they going to hell? Why are they going to hell?
Ungrateful to their husband.
Ungrateful to their husbands.
Bro,
Y'all
like
need
nowadays, like, pretty much, our people been taught to like glorify wealth, and you do this, you'll get wealth, and that's, I think, from my observation, that's probably the reason why, as the hadith mentioned, many of the followers from the jail will be like women. He's gonna have like he's gonna have all the wealth,
He's gonna have all the wealth. He's gonna have all the wealth, right? Black women need to hear these hadith. This is, black women, they are not, when they're looking for marriage, they're not talking about building with a man. When they're looking for marriage, what do they say? The man better have, house, car, money. This is what they say generally, right? They're speaking like this, right? They're not trying to, build an actual legacy. They want the man to be established first, so that they can go and have kids with that person, and nuke a marriage, and then take child support. You get me?
And when they hear about their great grandparents that had all these children and stayed at home and was loyal and was married all their life, they look at them like they're retarded.
Yeah.
But they had relationships. They don't honor them.
Yeah. Yeah, Sister Rabia, what you got for us?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Can
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, so the only, I think it's ironic that Black imams can't talk about Black issues, because the whole point of the imam is to delegate and deal with the issues of the community. So that part, and I understand it, and I know exactly why they couldn't, but it's just ironic. But anyways, the only thing with the imams mentioning the hadith about the woman going to the hellfire, the only problem with that is, let's be honest, most of these women don't listen anyway, or they try to, the outcome of that would be, well, what about the men? Why is it that you're always mentioning the sisters? What about the men, right? So
At the
kind of like
end of the day, if the women don't listen, that's between them and Allah.
Of course,
but the imams need to do this, because
Right.
these women, these Black women, they're completely and totally indoctrinated by Black feminism, and
They're out of control with it.
They're out of control with it, right? And this issue is one of the single most major issues in the Black community. It is way up there. Way, 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 way up there, and it cannot be ignored. So whether or not they listen, let's say, for example, they don't listen, that is good information for the Black men if they don't listen. Because what do you think Black men are going to do?
I would like to say that they would leave them alone.
Exactly. That's exactly what's going to happen. It's happening now as we speak. That is, men are not like women. Men are illogical in their thinking. You get me? And on top of that, it will distinguish the women who don't listen from the women who do listen. And what do we say about those heifers on here? Let those heifers go extinct. Let them go extinct. Let them stop multiplying. Let babies, kids in them be over there. Right? And then the good Black woman will finally get married, because they will be distinguished. But the warnings must go out first. If you don't do it, then how will you distinguish?
That's why I said that, if women are, if we're supposed to expose those brothers that, who beat up on their wives and abuse their children and everything else, if we're supposed to be doing that, the men need to do the same thing when it comes to the woman. If you know that there's a woman in the community that's done this, or whatever the case may be, if you know that there's these women that won't give up the custody to the fathers once they get married, and so on and so forth, then expose that. Why is it that we still talking about these things? And these sisters are the same sisters that get married 9, 10, 11, 12 times.
Yeah.
You know, and with every last one of their husbands, they have the same issue. So why are they not being exposed? Why
Yeah.
is it that they get ran through like that and nobody's exposing the issue?
And
The
that
men
right
need
there,
to.
there's another issue behind that too, because that was actually nurtured in the
Right.
black community. That was cultured and cultivated in the black community when Spubs and them was in charge. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're the ones who built that culture of running through sisters and that, married them off to the whole crew. You
Oh,
get me?
that's just gross. Like
They
that's
did
gross,
that.
man.
Back in the day, they had whatchamacallit. They would put list
They
of
still
women.
have. Oh, yeah, they
Yeah,
still
list
have a list.
of women who for marriage, and one of these lists was called the X Files. The X Files, meaning that you're going to marry this woman, she's going to be your ex very soon.
Wow.
You get me? They fostered that. They cultured that. They didn't culture stable families. What they did is they cultured and fostered muta and passed it off as halal marriage. And up until this very day, you find Musa Richardson, even just a couple of months ago, talking about, well, if you're married, if your marriage ended in divorce, don't be ashamed. At least you got married in the halal way. This is what they're doing.
That's
This is
why
what
you
they
find
doing.
a lot of these
We, we,
brothers
we have we
are
have a
talking about
nuclear
marriage as a test
bomb in
period.
the black community, okay, with unstable marriages and broken families, and this is how they talking. This is how they talking. They're hostile to they don't care about black folk. How you going to tell people, let some woman married twice and divorced twice try to marry an Arab today and see what happened. Try to marry a Pakistani today and see what happened.
It's rare.
Even if she's fine,
it's rare.
Let her try to marry some other people group and see what happens. See if they marry her. We got black women in the black community married 10, 11, 12 times. Even asking Sheikh Mukbil, rahimahullah, at his time. Sister been married 14 times.
I remember that, yeah.
Asking Sheikh Mukbil at his time. And you mean to tell me in 2023 that these black imams, they can't mention the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about the woman of the hellfire? You better mention that hadith. You best to mention that.
Right. It's crazy. Like it's almost like I can see it. It's almost like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's like, will people follow suit or will they just leave it alone? And honestly, if they don't follow suit, then it's funny because as a single person, like I've had, men talk about, okay, well, we can get married and try to see if it's gonna work out. If it doesn't work out, then we can just like marriage is not a test period. There's no test period in marriage. It's either you are or you're not.
Exactly.
Like it's crazy. It's like as a single female, and like you talk to somebody about marriage, and they're talking about, okay, well, we can try to see if this works. Like what?
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
Exactly. That's the culture that's being cultivated in the black community, and people think it's cool, and it's not. It's not. This is the single most destructive force in the black community. Broken families. There's no force more destructive than that. It's broken family. All the stuff that we go to, it's because of that. If you think about the crack epidemic, what did it do? It broke up the families. If you think about a mass incarceration, what did it do? It broke up the families. It made sure the fathers were not in the homes. Black feminism. What did it do? It broke every single thing we're talking about. It's geared to breaking up the black family. And you don't think that this wicked judicial system, the family court system, isn't geared and incentivizing breaking up black families? You must be tripping. And the one thing that black imams need to talk about is they need to talk about this. Remember when Shadid back in the day, he was talking about the issues with the black community.
Mm-hmm.
And what did he get called?
A black nationalist.
You got called black nationalist
I
relentlessly.
remember Shadid had even came out with a whole list of questions that people should ask before when vetting for marriage.
Yep. He got
You
called
know,
black nationalist relentlessly. And who was calling him black nationalist?
Bubs,
Not just them, but who?
black people.
Other black people. Thank you.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Other black people. I wish a biscuit would. I wish a biscuit would be they would regret that so fast. Brother Sema, you want to chime in on this?
I think he's on mute.
Yeah, I think those are the type of people that were have no critical thinking skills. And I mean like the black Muslims. So they just happy to follow anyone and just parrot what they say instead of, gaining the information and knowledge and trying to use it, to better their communities. So I think that's what that is. Also, what I was gonna say, I would like to believe that some of our women, well, a lot of our women, go to the Catholic courts, especially the ones that's in Kufr. That's what I'm mainly have in mind. Maybe they do this because they don't know it any better, like ignorance. I would like to believe that they just don't have the proper information. With all the miseducation, of black people here, in the West, and then also, all the distraction nowadays. These people all on Instagram and chasing after the wrong thing. There's no guidance, and I don't think that a lot of them have intelligent people in their life to even, sort of pull their coattail to like the issues that you're talking about.
I disagree. I disagree. The reason why I disagree with that is because a lot of the sisters, and this is why like I tend to keep to myself when it comes to dealing with a lot of sisters, is that a lot of them do know, but they have the mindset that from their jahiliyyah that only God can judge me, right? And you hear that a lot when it comes to these sisters, where they'll expose their business. It's the same way when you see a sister niqab with fake lashes on. It's the same thing. You see a sister out on the street with hole over her eyes. It's a lot of them know better,
I
but
was
they're gonna
referring
do
to
what they want to do,
I was referring to
regardless.
the. I was referring more to those who are not Muslim, and if those people gonna act like that,
Oh,
then Allah tell us that
yeah,
He will take them away and replace you with better people.
yeah.
Like, you see what I'm saying? If they don't want to appreciate the guides, or we don't want to appreciate the guides, Allah don't need us. He'll take us away and replace us with other people. He already made this promise. So yeah, I would like to believe like more of them.
Well, here's the thing, right? When the Prophet ﷺ, when he came, before he had revelation, before he, got revelation, he was already well respected. And why was he well respected? Because of his truthfulness, his honesty,
good character.
Good character, right? That's what made him respected. But not only that, he was always somebody who took care of himself. It was very well known he took care of himself. He's always clean. So much so that if you look at the books of hadith, they will start with cleanliness. They will start with cleanliness, right? Cleaning, a clean appearance and good character and being presentable and having decorum and manners and these type of things will attract people to you. You get me? It's like these are attractive traits. And if Black people are serious about changing the condition within the community, they have to change themselves first. They are the ones who have to take the initiative to have good manners, good decorum, cleanliness, honesty, truthfulness, and learning to leave an argument that is futile. You get me? I don't argue on like you will not find Brother Bilal, the Feachaz, getting into massive arguments online. I will just ignore a person. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because even though that person may disagree with you, if you show them good manners, or if you don't engage them in an argument, they will have no choice but to respect you. You see what I'm saying? We are the ones who have to raise our level so that we can get respected. If we're not willing to do that, then it is fine to leave and abandon the riffraff in our community who are not willing to do that. And then those of us who are willing to level up and put in the work and lose our comfort and our sleep and our peace of mind in order to level up, we are the ones that will be changing the community, because people will look at us like we're actually doing something, and we will be doing something. You get it? It's all connected. The way that you act, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you move, the way that you speak. We are here speaking the English language, correct?
Yeah.
If you want to communicate with somebody, you should master the English language. How long are you going to be speaking like you have like a 50-word vocabulary from the hood, right? Who's going to take that seriously? Let's say you, for example, today you needed a lawyer. Okay, you have to go and you need to get a lawyer, and you needed a lawyer, and the lawyer shows up with a bandana and these tattoos all over his face and rainbow hair. Even if he's the best, even if he's got a good reputation for being a good lawyer, would you hire him?
No.
No, you wouldn't. So then how is it that Muslim men, right, grown Muslim men, okay, are running through the streets still wearing Nikes and jogging suits? These are grown men now. You see what I'm saying? And then expect people to take them seriously. They have wave caps. You know, their hair is all, dusty, and you know what I'm saying? Who will take that seriously?
Not me.
Nobody would. You see what I'm saying? Right? We are the ones who need to level up. Leveling up is from the religion. Allah loves ihsan, perfection. He loves ihsan. You always have to level up. You can't just stay at the bottom and remain at the bottom and expect to the people to rise up.
The funny thing about it, we speaking about these issues, and you talk about, some of our the foreigners that come over here, the foreign Muslims, and they have no they even want to side with the enemy.
Yeah.
As you were speaking about the other night. But the thing is, what they don't realize is all these issues that are affecting us soon will be, well, it's already there, but they're going to see it exacerbated. It's going to be at your door.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be affecting your family. You know how many, my mother works like in the school system. She tells me that she see Muslim girls like from Iraq and all these other places, like soon as they get on a bus, and when they get to the school, they're like changing out their hijab, abaya, putting on like regular, like the clothes like the kuffar, like short stuff. She says she see it every day. But I don't think they understand this.
This is, again, the way that the system works in the West is that people, essentially, their time and their efforts are incentivized by monetization, right? Monetary gain. And because we live in a system which is interest-based, every single year, the value of our works and our actions becomes less and less and less because of inflation. Right now, where you are in a cusp of a massive economic crisis, because the the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates. And if you look at the stock markets, they are actually going down very aggressively because of these raised interest rates, and it's going to get worse, which means that there will be less jobs, which means that people will have less time because they will have to maintain jobs that will usurp as much of their time as possible. So when your time is being usurped and monetized, then will you have time to cultivate your children upon righteousness? Will you have time to do that?
Of course not.
Of course not. You got to remember, there was a time where a man out of high school can go get a factory job and support a wife, children, purchase a house and a vehicle.
It's true. That was a time he could do that, and his wife could stay home. She wouldn't even have to work.
His wife could stay home. His wife could stay home. That's not this time. This time is a time of massive chaos. Like, I don't even think chaos is the right word. It's more like, what's the word? Controlled demolition. Controlled demolition of human beings in order to control them.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So you find now, which company was it? A massive company. I can't remember, but they bought What's the guy who runs Microsoft? Bill Gates. Bill Gates bought 2 million hectares of farmland. 2 million. Okay.
I remember hearing about that.
Yep. Another massive company in Texas, private company, mind you, bought hundreds of thousands of homes. Here in Ontario, Canada, Ontario, the premier of Ontario is running Ontario like a dictatorship. And he's in bed with these housing developers, and he's basically letting them run wild in the green belt, which is the farming area of Ontario, to build homes with impunity. And on top of that, he's pushing to privatize healthcare, something that is illegal in Canada, but he's doing it anyways. He's privatizing healthcare in Ontario. And on top of that, they are criminalizing homelessness. Why do you think that all this is happening? Why? When people can't afford to purchase homes and they are homeless and desperate.
To control you.
Thank you.
You're going to be dependent on them for things. And the things you just named, the same thing is going on here. Like private equity companies, they're buying up like residential houses, apartments, driving up the rent so people can't, afford to live there. Like all the things you're talking about. And it leads me to the next point. I was like shocked to find this out. I'm sure many people probably knew. It was like mind-boggling to find out how many abortions our people have a year in this country. Yep. And then so I've been paying attention to that. Even the men are saying that. They're all saying they're not telling our people to wait until they get married to have, sex. They're saying don't have children if you can't afford it. So basically, like kill him. And Allah tell us to do the opposite. Like they keep talking about, like, you know, for you to get this or get that, you want to be successful. Like we got to come to the now. It's like a new narrative. Like if you do this, you'll become rich. You know that American dream, these fairy tales. Oh, some people are never gonna become rich. Why don't people just tell them the truth? If Allah didn't ordain, like some people will never be rich. I don't know a time when everybody on earth is going to be rich except for what the prophet told us. And that's like after Isa comes back, you know, when he told us people won't even find someone to give the zakat to, you know. But we have this notion that everybody's going to become rich. And you know, everybody's like chasing that. And Allah tell us just the opposite. Like, don't kill your kids for fear of poverty. The Europeans telling us, wait, kill your kids if you don't have, you know, X amount of dollars. And while they're preaching this to us, I'm finding out in Europe and in other countries, they're actually paying their citizens to have children. But
exactly.
we want us to kill ours. Like,
that's really what it is about.
These are the things that disgrace me. That's what I was talking about. Like these sort of things. Like we should know better. How can somebody else convince you to kill your child?
But at the same time, fund their own people to have children. You get me? And Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she mentioned this extensively in her book, The ISIS Papers, that the reason that racism, white supremacy exists is because of fear of white genetic annihilation. And she goes into great detail about that. And that's why we are seeing the rampant step up in open racism today. Because white people, they know very well their demographics are tumbling. And what's happening with white people is the same thing that's happening with the Chinese. And that's why China and you know, France and all these European countries and the United States are acting like they lost their damn minds. That's why they're acting like that. That's why they can send Asian families back on their rubber boat back to Haiti. But Ukrainians, not only did they get housing, but they get stipends to stay in the States and in Canada.
Right. That's what I mean. Like the ignorance, like the lack of critical thinking. Like
the people who built the West, Black people all over the West, are the most homeless demographic of all, and we built the West. Whether it's from South America all the way up to Canada, we built this, and we are the most homeless demographic out of all people. But we can't get homes. But some Ukrainian, all the way from some other, can't even speak English. Some other country somewhere.
Half of in the vast majority of the Americans, they couldn't even find Ukraine on a map.
Exactly. So we need to understand that while you are playing in the system, this system is playing you. You have to know that.
Exactly. I heard you once I came on your channel. I heard you mention about you was talking about immigration and how, you know, it was like they was basically only letting Europeans in the country. And like it was like Arabs wanted to, you know, claim they were white.
Yes.
You know, just so they can get citizenship. Well, our people should be able to see that we're actually killing our children. We have leaders that are promoting this. You're killing your kids, but from the beginning, they wanted to make America white.
Yes.
And that's why they let the majority of the people come here was white. And now they're letting Ukrainians come over here, as you just mentioned, but you won't let Haitians come. So why are we destroying our population? Like, I mean, to me, this is like common sense. Why would you destroy your population when they're trying to make, they're trying to increase their numbers? But you want to, you know, decrease your numbers.
This is where Islam comes in, right? This is where Islam comes in, right? In my humble opinion, we shouldn't be playing with these people in their system. We shouldn't be doing that at all, right? We should be working diligently day and night to build an Islamic system.
And even our people that are not Muslim, they talk about marriage because of the things that you you've been talking about throughout this show.
Yeah.
I want to get involved and get the state in there. So what I try to give them some Islam. I tell them you don't need to be married by going to the kafir system. You don't even need that. If that's your fear, don't go to the courts. But you still can have, in the eyes of Allah, that you still can be married. But this is like a new concept. So, but some of them, they seem to, like they never been told this. So sometimes I think it's because they don't know.
Well, whether they know or not, the point is that we need to build our kingdom by the book. By the book. And what is the book?
The Quran and Sunnah.
The Quran and the Sunnah. These non-Muslims, they would learn to love Islam. They would love it, absolutely love it, if we started building it. And playing in the system that the devil built, this Dalek system, and try to work with these people, is shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, the devil promised people freedom, but most people are ignorant and they don't know how to even use this freedom. And the devil don't give you freedom anyway. What he means by freedom is you're free to do whatever you like as long as you do whatever I like. That's what he means.
No matter what, you are going to be a slave anyways. You as long as you're in the dunya is slavery. Whether you choose to be a slave of Allah or choose to be a slave of the devil is totally up to you. It's totally up to you.
And we ain't got nothing from it anyway, but a bunch of pain and misery from playing the race system.
Exactly. And we are suffering so much. Black people are suffering so much, almost 5 solid centuries. And on top of that, our so-called Muslim brothers come here to participate in this system against us. That we are the ones who need to build by the book. We can't wait for anybody else to come in and help us. Only Allah himself will help us. And that requires us to stay on code. That requires us to cooperate. That requires us to sacrifice. It requires a lot of things. We need to get our own land, support our own business, stop buying Nikes and Reebok and any these type of things that enrich the enemies, and start buying black brands. You know what I mean?
The only reason why those brands are even popular anyway is because we made them popular.
We made them popular.
We made it cool.
People made that stuff popular. You know what I mean? And the way people are getting rich off of the talent of black folks. Absolutely rich. Just ask Kyrie Irving. You get me? So for us now, Muslims really, we absolutely have the solution, right? And if we started implementing it, these people would love it. They would love it. But we have to implement it. That's on us. Otherwise, like you said, we will be replaced by people who will love Allah. We are also replaceable at the same time. Don't think we're irreplaceable. We are also replaceable.
Yeah, I mean, so many of our people, they'll say we've been through this and that, and they'll never be able to get rid of us. I mean, they might be able. Maybe not all over the world, but in the West, it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely possible. We killing our children, but that still baffles me. I can't understand. It seems like very common sense.
Yeah.
We must be really sick if someone else can come and convince you to kill your own children. You don't know how I'm tripping off that when I'm finding that out, like the rate of abortion among our people, and they still letting their people in. I'm like, don't people see this? Like, why would we do that?
Yeah.
Don't they know this?
I mean, if you look at it,
they tell us like it's about quality of life and all of that. I read a statement from one of their people, Joseph Stalin, famous quote. He said, "Quantity has a quality of its own." So But we want to diminish the quantity of our people here, and meanwhile, they're still trying to import more and more of their people here, encouraging their people to have children. And I think that's another reason for the child support, the laws too. I think it was, initially meant to hurt us. I think it was put there.
No doubt, because they are paying white families to be stable white families and have children. Even in China, is the same thing. It's what white people are doing in Europe. Chinese people are doing in China. It's the same thing, and that's why Chinese people are acting crazy in China right now. That's what the whole thing about Uyghurs is about. Is because their population is aging. And for the first time in their history, their population has declined.
Right. And meanwhile, while America and China is both jockeying, for position in Africa, I'm hearing they have the youngest population.
Yes. 80% of Africa is under the age of 25, 75 or 80%, something like that. A massive number. They're under the age of 25. Enormous number of Africans. Okay. So in China, because their working population is aging, because that one-child policy, China has now increased. They went to 2 children. Now they're all the way up to 3 children. And no Chinese they don't want families. They don't want families because they're from China. They've seen what the Communist Party does in China.
The Japanese and the South Koreans, they're having the same problem.
Yeah. But it's very bad in China because of that policy. They violently suppress the people from having more than one child, right?
But isn't it ironic? Isn't it ironic though? In all these capitalist countries, Japan, South Korea, Europe, in particular Western Europe, the Chinese are supposed to be doing better now. That in these countries, the U.S., these countries, the population is dwindling. They telling you don't have kids. And then the so-called third world country or the poorest countries, they're having children.
They're having children.
They're supposed to have less.
Despite the efforts,
less wealth, but they still have children. They find a way to make it. Isn't it ironic?
Yeah. Despite the concerted effort, private and public efforts to go into Africa, not to build wells, not to build schools, not to build banks or anything like that, but to build abortion and Planned Parenthood clinics and to sell condoms and to
promote homosexuality.
Yeah, now that's the new thing that they're trying to do, and that's failing. It's failing miserably. So now they have private organizations making documentaries in Swahili and stuff for promoting homosexuality in Africa. And now Kenya has legally banned those types of documentaries. You get me? So now the reason why China is attacking the Uyghurs, because Uyghurs has what? They have a working population. And they are ethnically distinct from the Chinese. And that's why China is being very aggressive in the China Sea against Taiwan, Philippines, and they're trying to claim Beijing. They're trying to claim Taiwan because of their population. Don't you see the same thing happening in the States? There's the same thing. Same thing. That's why they're inviting all the Ukrainians to come. And that war in Ukraine, who is it benefiting? It's benefiting the States. They're not trying to do anything diplomatic with Russia. They're trying to sell Ukraine as many weapons as they possibly can to keep this war going, to keep the military-industrial complex pockets well filled. Okay, in some of these Baltic areas in Europe, as you mentioned, they're paying their people to have children. In Canada here, the Ukrainians get so many free stuff, free Ukrainians, while Haitians, that situation in Haitian is way many times more dire than the Ukrainian situation.
And they caused the problems in Haiti.
Yeah, they're the ones who caused the problem.
They're responsible for a lot of the issues they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like directly. Assassinations of presidents, coup d'etats. I remember even back when Clinton was in power.
That was just recent.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
So if you look at there was a situation in Britain with the Ukrainians, okay? So Ukrainians were, because the British government is paying Britons to house Ukrainians. Can you imagine? Right? They're sending the Africans back to Rwanda with big plans. Send these Africans back to Rwanda. We don't want them here. But they'll pay British to house the Ukrainians. These devils, okay? But anyways, do you know that some of the Ukrainians are complaining? And you know what they're complaining about?
What's that?
They're going to areas like Birmingham. And what is in Birmingham? Do you know what's in Birmingham in Britain?
I'm guessing the majority black population.
Blacks and Muslims. And they're like, oh, hell no. Let me go back to war-torn Ukraine. Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
Wow.
Let me go back and duck bullets in Ukraine. I can't deal with the Negroes and the Muslims.
And these are the sort of people like Daniel are telling us to unite with, hold hands with.
Yeah. This is, but back to the black tax, the new black tax, which is black women taking the fathers of their children to the judicial system of the devil in order to coerce these men into giving up at least 1/3 of their gross wealth to these women in order to buy ridiculous things: pizza, Popeyes, nails, hair, trips,
clothes to dress up for their next boyfriend.
Yep. This right here is causing so much outrageous destruction in the black community that I don't see how black imams, I can see it, but black imams need to deal with this. They need to deal with this, and they can't fear the blame of the blamer. That the fearing the blame of the blamer, those days are over. Those days are over. There is a new day.
And not only that, like I see, not only the monetary issue, I heard so many black men, even ones I personally know, complain about even after paying this money, like they can barely see their children. They can't even parent. You see, you can't even parent. Like that's that, and this is definitely done by design. Like, because indirectly, you're even putting your children into the hands of the enemy, and they don't see that. You're selling them out.
Yes,
because they got a penitentiary that's waiting for them to put them in the judicial system, and then the cycle, shall continue.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the men see that I talk to, but once the devil told your woman she's free and she don't have to listen to you, they don't really have any ways to make them. At least in other countries, the men still have some sort of control over the women. They can sort of make them, obey to a certain extent. But here the devil told them you're free. He don't want to let you do something. He's gonna stop you. Call us. We'll deal with them.
Yeah, because feminism.
And that goes with. And I don't mean just the wife. Let me be clear. I mean that goes for your children. Like they'll come. Just you spank your children. They get too rowdy. They'll come take your children. In this country, CPS, and put them in foster homes, and they'll probably never be the same.
Yeah, It's because feminism is like a highly
You gotta hear
Western
this. So 70% of inmates are a product of a single-parent household. What they don't tell you is that single fathers produce similar statistics of those of homes with two parents, while single mothers don't. So the key to keep your children out of prison is the father. But mothers are awarded custody 90% of the time. Women are incentivized to leave a marriage, and prisons profit $74 billion a year. Am I thinking too much, or is there some sort of plan here?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And we ain't even talking about how much money they make off that child support industry, just like off the fees alone.
Yep.
I had a friend of mine that was going through it. He told me that all the money doesn't go to the children. Like it's like an ATM almost. Like they charge you. You have to pay it through the court, but they keep a portion of the money. It don't all go through, And then he said if the woman is on like child support, getting some aid, the child gets none of that money. You're just paying the government back for giving them, for giving the mother, some sort of assistance.
Yes.
Like the money don't actually go to the children.
Yes, the government takes their cut. The government is taking their cut. And every state in the state is different. It's over here in Canada is the same thing. Same thing. And the second that you get into arrears, you can end up in prison. But imams are not talking about this. Right? And it's not necessarily the fault of the imams, because again, there was a condition with black people where black people would attack black imams for speaking about black issues. Right? Those days are long. Now they're gone. Now they are gone. And we wish they would. We wish that they would.
Well, I mean, somebody's gonna have to say something.
Yeah.
You got to. I mean, at this point, it's pretty much I almost see it like an obligation.
Yeah.
It's almost like a fart in our community now. Yeah, that's what I believe. Like, I mean, Allah tell us, like, and don't hide the truth when you know what it is.
Exactly.
So,
all right,
especially when you see it,
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you get your last words in. Right? We've been on for almost 2 hours. So it's a little long. Yeah, go ahead. Get your last thoughts in.
Man. I mean, it really ain't, much to say. I just say that, especially when you see the damage it's doing to our community, like at this point, it's like, from my perspective, like obligatory, to say something. It's causing like mass, be aware. But, I really don't have the words for it. Some of the stuff seems to be common.
The black community is definitely aware. Yeah, the black community is definitely aware. Yeah. We know very well. It's so deeply ingrained in black culture.
But the women who are participating in this, are they fully aware of the implications, or are they so shallow they're just they don't even know this part? They don't even see that you're not just hurting like the father, you're destroying your own children because they're just blinded by some trinkets. That's what
it's not just your baby dad. It's not even just the children. Yeah. It's the entire community.
And
it's the
the way I see it. That's the way I see it. That's the long game. They're not even so much concerned as much with your baby daddy, especially when he gets a certain age. They're planning for your children. They have to get the next generation, the youth. While they're full of virility. And so we can get them like felony convictions at an early age, so we can regulate them or relegate them rather into a certain sector of society. Because in America, like once you catch a felon, like there's certain jobs you can't have, certain places you're not allowed to live. These sort of things. Like they can legally discriminate against.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're looking at the long game. Like right now, they may just be going off their emotions, trying to get back at this guy, but the enemy, he has his eye on your children. That's the master
plan. Short-sightedness is very rampant with both black women and black men. We don't think past tomorrow. You get me? So black women are the new white supremacists. And they can't even see it. They can't even see it. Whether or not it's their fault is irrelevant. What is important is that the understanding that black women are the new white supremacists, destroying the entire community. Because if you want more of a thing, you monetize it. If you want more of a thing, you monetize it. Single motherhood has been heavily monetized in the black community. Heavily monetized. So much so that
why would they give you anything anyway?
Yeah. So much so that black
They
women
never gave a damn about you.
Yeah. Black women now think that, being a baby mama is good business practices. And destroying a black man's wealth is heavily monetized in the black community. Heavily, heavily monetized and enforced. It's enforceable. So once you put money to a thing, you get more of it, which is why Muslims have to understand, especially black Muslims, we have to get out of this habit for doing things for money. You do things for mastery, not for the money. Because when you master a thing, the money will come naturally. But if you don't master anything, you will be mastered. You understand? If you don't master anything,
Yeah, that's the truth. My grandparents used to always tell me, whatever you're gonna do, man, do it to the best of your ability.
Do it to the
Try
best.
to be the best at it.
Be the best at it, and people will see it, and they will pay for it. But if you're doing it just for the monetary gains, like nuking your family, okay? Right?
I try to tell my children all the time, you need money to, so you won't be dependent on everybody else. But, find something that you're good at, and what matters most is like, your character, how you treat people. Nobody's gonna really remember or care about how much money you have when you're in that box and they throwing dirt on you. But they'll remember like how you treated them, your character, setting a good example, what you taught people, that sort of thing. Now it's like all about me, 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 me. And the last thing I'll say is like with this child support thing, the other thing you do, we have a big gap between the youth and the older people here. That's because, like I spoke about the women, they didn't grow up with a father. So how can they be good wives? Because they never had to be obedient to the men. The same thing with the young men. They don't like older men because they was raised with their mother, and the stories they probably hear about their father, or he wasn't around because the mother used the system to disgrace him. So he doesn't honor him, see him from an honorable light, like he was a loser and deadbeat, these sort of things. So you don't have respect for older black men either. So we have that rift in our culture. Hence, see the youth in the inner cities, and they're wild. And over here, I don't know about in Canada. Over here, I'm sure probably the same thing over there. Like they call themselves demons. Like I talk to them, I have to tell them like, no, don't call yourself this. That's what they call themselves, demons.
Yeah, that you see, this is the thing. Everything you said is like spot on. Okay, and on top of that, pardon me, black women are the power in the black community. They are the power, and they're the black community is the only community where the women are the power. So if black men want the power, you think black women are just going to give it up?
No, of course not.
Of course not. They're not going to give it up. There will be that element of black women who will help each other upon this wicked evil. But it's like Sister Tika said, there will be the women, the black women, who can see it, and they're really ready and willing to fight this. So we are the ones who have to make a stand. You know what I mean?
Those type of women that you mentioned, Sister Tika, described, they might be the most valuable players in this fight.
Of course.
Because if the young girls start hearing more intelligence, because the younger women, they'll probably be more apt to listen to women like that with intelligence, and they probably take it better from them.
Yeah, these single mothers are producing the most backwards members of society. Absolutely backwards. Absolutely backwards. 70% of all felons were raised in single mother homes. 70%. Okay?
I believe it.
You know, when you're a single mother, your traits will pass on to your children. So if your daughter's never seen you submit to a man, you think your daughter's going to have the ability to submit to a man?
Of course not.
And if your sons see you how you
never
are with
been
men,
disciplined by men,
with this overly argumentative attitude, absolutely. And why do you think so many black men are argumentative? Because they're raised by single mothers. Black women like to argue. They will fight. They can't close their mouth. They can't close their mouth. They want to fight. Everything is a fight with them. And so black men, they pick that up and they start fighting. Incredibly, effeminate and immature. And when black women fight, they fight in a masculine manner, right? Totally masculine.
I have even heard about cases where there's like working black men, like, and they discipline their children like with a belt, and teach the children to call CPS, and they come and like take them, for him trying to discipline them. Isn't that ironic? They don't want you to discipline your kids, but just wait till they grow up a little bit and shoot them and kill them. You don't hit them with a belt, but let them grow up and continue to be reckless, and we'll just kill them. They don't even have to grow up. They don't even have to grow up. Look at Tamir Rice. What was he, like 12, 13, something like that? 12.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I say, if you're doing it because of the monetary benefit, you're always going to lose that battle. Because if you look at your money today. Look at the pictures on your $5 bill or your $50 bill or your $20 bill. Look at those pictures. Those are pictures of killers of black folk. Every last one of them, right? And they have the ability to monetize the most backwards, rancorous, aspects of black culture to infinity. You get me? You have to work on mastery. We have to master Quran, master Sunnah, master whatever it is that we're doing for our livelihood, whether it's carpentry or masonry or going to college or whatever it is. You have to master those things. And then if you're doing it for mastery, then you will build a community. You know what I mean? Then you have to pick up the litter of the women to choose, women who understand what it is to be a wife. Black women who understand what it is to be a wife. Black women without 3 or 4 baby fathers.
And the cold part about it, our young men, they have no guidance, so they don't even know. Like all the little things you're doing out there, the illegal things, like that's like chump change anyway. Even the drug game is not how it used to be. Like if they had the guidance, like more men could tell them. Like these days, you don't have to do anything illegal. You can make way more money doing something legal. But you see what I'm saying? But they don't understand that. There was a time in this country in the Jim Crow era and the segregation of the South, like we had way less, but our families were more intact. We had way more children. Like my grandparents, like it was common, my great grandparents, for them to have like 13, 14 children. And we were poor. And nobody starved.
Yeah.
In this time when the European could be more open.
The wealth is actually in the children. Wealth for human beings is in 2 things. It's in the land and it's in the children.
Indeed.
Right. And this is why the enemy fears black children. That's why.
And that's my whole point. The women, they're looking at the children. That's my whole point. Their long game is after your children, and our women, children are your investment. In my belief, that's the greatest investment you can make.
Yes, but women can't raise children. Children are raised by men. Women nurture children. You get me? Women take care and maintain children, but the man is the one who raises them. They are the disciplinarians. They are the ones that put fear in that child to make sure that they're on the right path.
Well, it was a great conversation, Aki. I don't want to hold you too long. It was a great conversation. It increased me. I'm even more convinced, and have more conviction, about the things that I was believing in, and hopefully somebody else was listening, man, and you sparked their brain, to want to go.
What I want you guys to do, if you're listening, go to your imams and talk to them about this. Even if you have to show them clips of the talk conversation, whatnot, talk to them about this, because this is. I can't think of much more things more important to deal with than this in the Black community. Black families should be front and center. Like when I think about all the destruction that's happened in the Black community, right? Why do you think the enemy focuses on the Black family so much? Why are they in our house and in our business? Why do you think that is? Because they have our best interests at heart? Talk to your imams. Any one of you, if you know a Black imam, tell them to talk about this and not to make it a one and done thing. It has to be talked about regularly, because we are suffering because of this. And if we continue down this path, we will all be a footnote in history. Okay, family. I want to say Jazakallah khair for everybody who joined me tonight. May Allah reward you. May Allah bless you all. Make dua for your brother. Don't forget to make dua for brother Feachaz. Okay. We put this stuff out here. We taken a lot of flack up until this point, and we are still here. We are still here. Right? So don't forget us in your dua. Support us on Patreon. Support us with the memberships, and support us with your dua and liking and subscribing and sharing the channel. Subhanallah bihamdik wa shada la ant wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. We are the Muslim wing of the Black grassroots. Unapologetic, strong, uncompromising voices that have been in the faces of the enemy and those who tap dance for them. The Feachaz is proud to present the archives exclusively on Patreon.